Sorry, so that we can make a start. Um, Perfect. If it's working, I'm waiting for a second confirmation so that I can proceed. Um, Thank you, F1 Lab, to confirm that's working. Uh, Perfect. Thank you very much, and sorry for that. So, welcome again. Oh, I'm seeing someone else saying that the audio is not working anymore. So, and I don't want us to. All good. Thank you. So thank you very much for those who've joined. And it's great to see you all. My name is Sam, and welcome to this session. This session is meant to prepare you how to master your Chevening scholarship, and and in this session, we're hoping that we'll be able to go through the interview format. We'll also be looking at the typical questions that you will be asked in your interview and how you can answer those questions. But before I make a start, I would like to um, just say that it's let's just know who is in this session. If you could just type and say in the chat and say probably your name, where you come from, the country, and the course or the field that you're in, and probably your first choice of the university in that format. So your name, your field or the course you're looking for to study, the university, and your country. If it's possible, just knowing who is in the room, and then we'll make a start as we have more people joining in. Please don't worry about the questions. I'll be taking questions after this session. So feel free to just focus. After this introduction, I'll just dive into my presentation. So thank you, someone from Ucheni from Nigeria, biotech, looking to study at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. Anyone else? Just a few, the first few. Just know for you to type in the chat, you must have subscribed to the channel, and it takes 1 minute after subscribing if you haven't subscribed. And that's to encourage you all to subscribe and enable notifications, know when we do other videos. Remember, I do other videos on the books I've read. Some of them are really interesting, maybe helpful for your studies, and probably we might do a session on how to take advantage of this opportunity once you get your results in June. And now, when you're ready to come to the UK, I'm sure you can do a session on how to maximize, because people come to the UK but end up differently. People have a different experiences based on their preparation and how they take those opportunities. So you have UK 21112 from Ukraine. Oh, great to have you here, and sorry for what's happening in your country. Looking forward to study LLM, International Criminal Law, and International Humanitarian Law. You didn't tell us your uni. Nimi from Bangladesh, Food System and Food Security, University of Reading, and of course Newcastle and Leeds in that order. And then we have Ibrahim, Nigeria, MSc Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship at LSE in London. Sudan, someone in public health. Great to see you all. So, without ado, I want to just probably tell you that Chevening is the most prestigious scholarship at master's level that you'll ever have. And that's a question you need to always keep in mind, that it's prestigious, and having that in mind will help you answer some of the questions and know what angle, what kind of answers they're looking, especially when they start asking a question on Chevening. So, again, to let you know the purpose of the Chevening Scholarship. So, Chevening Scholarship was conceptualized ideally to foster relations between countries. So every time they ask you why Chevening, remember, or why do you see yourself? Remember, it was meant to foster relations between countries. And from there, I want now to move on to the background. So I would like to tell you that Chevening is competitive, very stiff competition. And you can imagine every year 70,000 to 80,000 people apply for Chevening, and only around 1,500 are selected. And so right now, it means you have like a 50% chance of getting it. So this is the last chance you have, like within your control, for you to get a scholarship. And that's the reason why I would say that give it your best shot. This is the only chance. Like, I mean, I've had situations where people have gotten to the interview stage, then they apply the following year, and then they're not even selected for the interview because of the competition changes every year. So when you get this chance to be interviewed, give it your best shot. Then how do you prepare then? If it's that competitive, number one, it's attending such sessions like this session that we have today. And before that, probably you'll also have gone through your essays, revising them, seeing what points you need to clarify. And there you can practice by yourself in a mirror. You can have also people, achieving alumni, they can take you through mock interviews, and also even people who've not, you can give someone random questions. Look at these questions, like these 10 questions, and ask me, and let me know how I answer them. They can even guide you, probably you're too fast or you're too slow, or you're not explaining points someone can understand, or they can help you. I mean, yeah, those kind of sessions are really helpful. Um, and this is to let you know, whoever the people who finish up this session with me, you can book a mock interview with me. You have my social media channel, so you can reach out to me. I can't give my email publicly, but you can just drop a message either on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the most preferred, and you must be able to navigate it so that you send a connection request for me to get your message. Otherwise, people always claim that they can't send me a message. But I'm also available on Instagram, and I check, and also on Facebook. So if you're there, I'll be able to help you with a mock interview. So having said that, also then let's move on to understanding the interview format. So the tuning interview, you don't need to go with any documentation other than an identification document. So that means you need either your driving license, your ID, or a passport, whatever you use in your country. And it's a mix of personal, academic, and situational behavioral questions. And these questions are not out of the ordinary. They're the normal questions we keep on discussing, or some of the issues you already addressed in your essays. So that's something you need to get, that there's nothing out of the extraordinary. And they are very straightforward questions, but sometimes when you don't answer properly, they might end up throwing a follow-up question, and it's not in bad faith. So if you feel these are follow-up question, then you need to again think through. When you get to your interview, you need to, of course, I won't talk about the presentation, but just remember that you're very close to the panel, like very close to them. So they might give you a glass of water, and sometimes you can take a glass of water before, a sip of water before you answer a question, and breathe. Don't be too quick to get into answering the questions. Always take like 3 seconds or five, and to plan, and to, so that you can, this is science now. When you breathe, when you take a breath, you get composed. So this is really important. Having said that, I want to move to the questions that you'd expect, and I would classify them based on the essays you wrote, and we'll look at the possible answers. We'll also be looking at some of the mistakes people make, and how to tackle those questions. So number one, you'll have a question on, tell us about yourself, and this question is not graded, so you don't need to worry much about it. But remember, how you present this question also determines how they feel you. This is the first question. This is the first interaction you have with your panelists. So you need to kind of, this is not a summary of your CV, so don't say, oh, I went to this school, blah blah blah, like you summarize everything. That's not how you should. It should be like more of a conversational. It's a nice icebreaker. So you can say, I'm a middle child of in a family of this, or if you're a parent, you can say I'm a father of two, or I have a family, or a mother of one. Like let's let it be human, and then move on to, like, I'm passionate about XX, like if it's climate change, and you're looking forward to, that passion really is what now will make them kind of feel you in a professional way. So not really, because remember, they have your CV, they have all that information is with them in the portal. So not necessarily giving information that's already in your CV. We want to feel you, who is this in front of us. So giving your name and saying something about your family structure, something that, where you come from, whether the central part of your country or the northern part of your country or wherever, and then you move on to what you're passionate about. Always link that to SDG, and then you can add a sentence and say, and I'm looking forward to get a Chevening scholarship, so that then add a statement there how you would want now to explore your passion in a big way after getting the masters. So kind of, it's not graded, but how you answer that question is really important, because it's a first thing that obviously that now helps you to create a scene of them to feel like, who is this in front of us. So again, the main thing that note is it's not a summary of your CV. So you don't need to summarize all the courses you've done, but of course you can say I'm an engineer and I'm passionate about this and this, but don't summarize your CV. I'll then move on, and then we go now to answer how to answer leadership questions. So, and remember, you've already written an essay on leadership. So, in this essay, the main thing is using the STAR approach. The STAR approach, because it helps you, because many of the mock interviews I've done, people start by defining leadership. I mean, unless you're told to define leadership, for me, I don't see the need why you need to define it. So I would straight go ahead. For example, if you are asked, tell us of a time or about a time when you demonstrated leadership, you need to go straight to the point and say, in June 2023, while working as a program administrator at organization X, you need to be very specific. We had this challenge of ABCD, and this challenge was affecting our organization in this way. So you see now, that's what you've given us, the situation, and you've kind of about the background of the problem. Then you move on to the task. What was required to do? We needed to do ABCD in order to solve the problem, and then that you've given out the T, which is a task, and you move on to the action. What exactly did you do? So you can list like three things. I always say, don't say one thing that you did. You can give them step by step. Like, first of all, I went to my boss, and after meeting my boss, I explained to them, or you sought permission, and then you explain what did you do, who did you reach out to, and remember, this essay is actually called, or this question is actually based on leadership and influence. So every time you're told there's something about persuasion or convincing people, it adds bonus to your answer. So in the process, probably you had to convince some people to see things your way, or to convince them to look at the problem, because probably not everyone sees it as a problem sometimes. So, and then if you're working in a group, then you need to specify what exactly did you do as part of the group. So in these, always, we've said this even in your essays. Sometimes people say what we did, but you're not telling us what was your contribution to the group. So always go for I and not we. So specify what you contributed to the group, not necessarily giving the results or giving the actions to the group. And then finally give the answer or the results of your actions. So sometimes it's not necessarily that things go well. Sometimes there are lessons. So something didn't really succeed, you can include the lessons you learned. And probably I'll go then to this question can also be formulated in, tell us of a time when you failed. So again, you'll go to the same process and explain what you did from the problem you're trying to solve, and then to the point where it failed, but then give it a twist and give the lessons you learned from it. And probably you can add, when you solve a similar problem in the future, how you applied the lessons, without going into details, because remember, the question is when you fail, about a time when you failed. Without going into details, say how now the other problem you were able to solve it, like you apply the lessons. This question can also come in the point of, tell us about a time where you worked in a group and there was a conflict, or you solve a conflict. So again, remember, there information on, how to solve a conflict. First of all, you have to know the context. What's the issue? Where is the disagreement? Those people who've done stuff on conflict management or resolution know these things. You establish what are the reasons why are people in a conflict, and then you would be like, you might meet the two groups separately, and then probably, and then, convincing them, actually, there's no conflict here, like you need to, and then probably meet them later together. So explaining the process of how you go through these things is what will now, you'll be answering the question. And remember, here you're not telling us you're a leader, you're showing. So don't say I'm a leader. Through your answers, someone will need to conclude, wow, this is a leader, based on the answers they're giving. So influence skills, problem solving skills, they might be able to ask you those questions in that way. Then this question can also be add a bonus. Like I had a mock interview this week with someone from Tanzania, and they told me one of the questions they were asked is that Tanzania goes to the polls this year. What kind of a leader, qualities would probably, if you had to look for a leader, what kind of qualities would you recommend to people? Obviously, now this is so simple. You can talk about vision. You can talk about someone who's able to articulate their views. Someone who is, someone who is also courageous, who is able to tell the truth, even when that truth probably doesn't. Not everyone believes in it. They might ask you those questions are just like not really about your leadership, but what's happening in your country, but not really mentioning individuals. Don't mention individuals and say I'm supporting so and so. Just look for the qualities if such a question is asked to you. I want to go to networking now. And for this question, really, they're looking for someone who can leverage or take advantage of achieving opportunity to grow in their career. And this means they can sense opportunities, take advantage of them, and so basically that's what they're looking for to grow. So some people have gone for answers where both parties benefited. I always say I'm always advocating for that's not the main thing for me. I want to see how you have skills that can actually help you to navigate the next steps of your achieving and actually develop in your professional career. So in this case, the question might be, how do you plan to engage with the achieving community, and how do you plan to maintain these relations beyond your studies? So you can see that question is long. So they're asking you what kind of skills probably do you have, or how are you planning to engage and build professional relationships beyond your studies. So in this case, you can give an example and say, for example, in 2022, I attended the Law Society conference, which brings all advocates of in Kenya. Those are lawyers in my country, and they meet every year. And there was this lawyer who was making a presentation, like let's say something like mining law, or something innovative, something to do with AI, or something that really will make someone feel like, yeah, this was a conference you attended. And then you can now say how you're impressed, and then you approach them. Always it's you approaching. I've always said, when you're giving networking examples, it's you who makes the move. It's not the person, because when the other person makes the move, it's them who have the skills to establish networking relations, and we are looking for your skills, not the other party's skills. So in this case, then you'd say how you developed a relationship with them, or probably you requested them to. Oh, sorry, I have to clarify. It's professional relationship. Probably you can now add how you requested them to be your mentor, or how probably what they started telling you opportunities or referring opportunities to you, or probably how they set up their own farm at some point, and then they asked you whether you could join, and you interviewed, and how you got the job. Now we are crediting this because this is growth from you networking, you having the skills to approach someone, keeping the relationship or professional relationship. That's in terms of engaging in communication, either through you always mention how you've engaged each other, like we keep in touch through emails or calls or coffee chats or all those kind of things. So but now practically, when you ask how you plan to engage the achieving community and how you plan to do this beyond your studies, you can talk about how you plan to attend achieving or events organized by Achieving Secretariat. They organize events, including like a visit. In my year, I went to the House of Commons in London, and I also at some point I was also visit the Welsh Parliament. There's those events organized by Achieving Secretariat. There are also events organized by the university. So if, for example, and they also like there are also competitions, like some entrepreneurial boot camps which came in our year, hackathons about climate change. So if look for that information from the website, and then tailor your answers towards something that's really concerning your course or the program that you want to study. And then say how you plan to network within this. You need to engage people in your uni. You need to engage people in your program. You need to network with your lecturers for collaboration, and you also need to network with other achievers from other countries, and this will be important for your growth also in your career. And then also you can always discuss, you also plan to network. You can even mention you started networking. You already know Cheveners. You already know Chevening alumni. And then you can, from your country, you can say you plan to engage through your Chevening alumni network. I'm saying this because in Kenya, that's how we call it, Kenyan Chevening Alumni Network for the alumni, and they organize events. I know for the past couple of months they've gone to some universities to give talks to colleges, and all those kind of things are also important in terms of growth. Remember also, based on the things you want to address in your country, you can't do these things alone. And remember that people who've been trained before in your profession, in your country. So I wasn't the first person to do agriculture and development or food security stuff in my country. There are other people. So if there are things to be addressed by Chevening alumni through those networks, then I need to network with them, because that's also important to do them to do those things together. One thing that this question also becomes really contextual, if someone asks you, um, if for example it's in I think I'll discuss it in the career plan by just mentioning it, that someone might ask you when you give your career plan, they might ask you, who do you need to network with in order to achieve your career plan? So always, as you say, you want to become the minister for this in your country, or you want to become the director of this in your country, always think, for me to achieve that career plan, who do I need to network with along the way? Obviously, if you want to get into elected posts, politics, know who elects people. If it's a public, then you need to network with the youth leaders, the women leaders, the men, the religious leaders. The people who, if they endorse you, you would win an election. I'm just trying to make you see your career plan and thinking, connecting it to your networking skills, so that you're able to so that you're able to so that you're able to answer that question correctly. I want to go to how to answer the question studying in the UK. And this question, I've really seen people giving very funny answers in my mock interviews, and sometimes it comes in twos. It's something I need to mention right now, that you might be answered questions which are in twos. So, and sometimes, and it happened this week with one of the mentees, I asked them a question, two questions in one, and they answered one and forgot the second part. Sometimes it's like, tell us why Chevening, and why do you want to study in the UK, and why Chevening? You know, those are two questions. Why do you want to study in the UK, and why Chevening? When they ask you such a question, I would go for two reasons for each part of the question. So don't give very long answers. In fact, just try to do at least 2 minutes per answer. But why do you want to study in the UK? Please go for educational reasons. Go for educational benefits, and link them to issues in your country that you would want to address. Always remember that. Link them to the issues in your country you want to address. For example, the main reason why, for me, I feel the studying in the UK is important personally is because the master's degree is only 1 year. If you go to Germany, and I'm not saying you mention Germany or US in your answers, in most countries, a master's takes 2 years. In the UK, it's only 1 year. And that means within 1 year, you'll have finished your master's and you can give back to your country and continue your career plan. And that's really important. So that's always the first reason I would give. And I think that's the reason I also gave in my interview, the 1 year master's. And then the other question about the UK, why UK, is also the world class education. Most UK universities are highly ranked, but that's not the final why you need to end your answer. You need to explain how that will benefit you. For example, you'll get world class knowledge and skills. If you please go detail specific into your answer. For example, for me, I would say being a world class university, like I was going to University of Reading to do my master's in agriculture and development, I would gain skills and competencies on how to formulate projects, agricultural and rural development projects that would enhance food security and reduce poverty in my country. So link the answer on world-class education to a problem in your country. And why Chevening? Why Chevening then? It's like they're asking you, compare Chevening with other scholarships. Don't mention don't mention Commonwealth, don't mention the Fulbright, but technically have that in mind. That's what they want to know. Whether do you know why you want Chevening and not the other scholarships? The first thing is it's prestigious. So, and it's the prestige comes mostly because Chevening has produced leaders, head of governments, and states. So, and if you go to the website, you'll see, I think one of them became a president in Latin America 10 years after their Chevening scholarship. So, and in Kenya, we have had several cabinet ministers or secretaries, as they call them, who were Chevening alumni. So, what they are looking for is now answers to specifically Chevening. So, I always advocate you can say something is good without saying the other thing is bad. So, just focus on answering your question on Chevening. So, Chevening is prestigious, has produced leaders. In your country, you can give an example, like the minister also and so was a Chevening alumni in this year. Kind of they would feel like, wow, these things. Um, and also the fact that Chevening takes the cream of the cream in every country. Just look at how they select leaders, potential leaders. That means, remember that pool you are in, the 1,500 of you. That is really important, and that's what makes Chevening prestigious. Obviously, there's also the other thing that Chevening organizes events for not many scholarships organize events for people to network, people to grow their skills, and the fact that also there's a vibrant alumni. It also makes Chevening one of the reasons you can give for Chevening, because not many scholarships you hear people talking about, oh, we are alumni of this scholarship and we're meeting and we're doing these events. And I think also one of the other reasons is because once achieved, now always achieved now. I think I've had so many events. I've gone to other universities like Cambridge and Oxford even last year, and every time I meet people, oh, you're achieved now. So like there's that thing. Oh, so yes, so that's one of the reasons you could give for achieving. So answers to avoid here: don't talk about your favorite football club, why you want to study in the UK. Don't. I mean, you can talk about the multicultural environment as your second reason why you want to study in the UK. Obviously, because when you study in a multicultural environment, you kind of also learn how to work with people who are different from you, people who do not look like you, and that also adds to your CV. Actually, it's one of the great things you can have in your CV, that international experience. So working with people from diverse backgrounds is actually a positive thing. So don't talk about the food. Don't talk about the tours you want to do. Just focus on the reasons why UK. Focus on education reasons, and why Chevening. I've given you reasons. You can frame them in a better way. But they might ask you, other than your studies, what else do you plan to do in the UK? Which is a very common question. Now, for that question, you can now go for question. You remember, it's been other than your studies. So don't say, oh, I still plan to study. No, they've asked you other than your studies. So I think I would go for volunteering. They like hearing that. Chevening has this thing where when you volunteer, you log in hours, and after your scholarship, they reward. I think it's a certificate for people who logged in more hours in volunteering activities. Some of the volunteering people do, you can volunteer in a local food bank. You can volunteer to teach people Swahili or Arabic, wherever, wherever. There are always things happening within your community where you can volunteer teaching kids or something like maths in a local school or whatever. Maths is easy. Always people go for maths and science subjects. So you can talk about volunteering, or if you can be very specific. Like if you want to go to Reading, I'd already kind of like went through and seen the volunteering organization I could have joined, and I can give a very specific example. I'm actually planning to volunteer with Organization X. They're like, you already know that organization, so they're like, this is someone who's ready for achievement, and that adds points to your interview. Here, you can also mention your favorite football club. You can say, "Wow, if you're a Manchester City fan or United fan, you can say you want to go to University of Manchester because you also plan to watch a football match live, or if all those kind of things. You can talk about them. Remember, the question we are looking at right now is other than your studies. You can also mention tours, the castles, the museums. Museums are a huge thing in the UK, and the festivals. I think every city has a certain festival that happens in summer. I remember Reading Festival didn't happen in our year because of COVID, but I'm sure it's happening right now. In another years, there are also events. Rugby, people who love rugby, people who love cricket, those things are huge, and you can mention them. That question now. You can talk about other things you want to do in the UK. Um, and so I've finished on studying in the UK, but I would want to go further. And one question that again gets asked is, for example, why? I think there was an Egyptian, someone I mocked from Egypt, and they give me feedback. They'll ask a question: why dentistry? So why do you want to study dentistry? So you can now figure out this question can also be like you're justifying your choices, right? They might not ask you the choices because I think one of the changes I've had, I don't know whether it's in all countries, when you go for your interview, they might give you a form to just write your choices, the 3 choices you've made. Instead of asking you during the interview, you just told to write them down. Why? Because when you get a scholarship, it comes with the first offer, like the first offer that the way you've listed them. So your documents, you read the first university you selected, unless you want to change. They give you a chance. If you want to change. That's the first selection. But still, if you change at that point, you change within the 3 you submit. But right now, you can actually change before your interview, and you don't have to. They don't. Sometimes they ask you justifying why you want to change. Sometimes they don't. But think of why if they ask you something like why dentistry, or why do you want to study climate change. For me, I would go for link them to problems in your country you'd want to solve. And when I say problems, please do not compare your country with another country. That's very negative and never works. Never say my country doesn't have X. Never say my country, wherever. Always, you need to frame it like there's a shortage of dentists in my country, and especially people who specialize in this form of dentistry. And I'm looking forward to gain skills such as ABC. You list your skills, like 3 of them, and come back and use them. Don't say my country again. Say Egypt or Kenya or Zimbabwe or Ukraine or Chile, wherever. Uh, Always don't say my country in your answers. Give the country the name. And I've said that when you are looking at your essays. So in this case now, you need to link when someone tells you to justify your courses. Always remember they're looking at you and the problems in your country and how that is will be connected to that. Um, Again, please, that question is really important, and people fumble most of the times because they're not thinking, they're not linking the whatever they want to study with the issues in their country. So why do you want to study food security? You can explain, 30% of Kenyans are actually food insecure, especially children under 5. 20% are malnourished, and this affects them in this way. So I'm looking forward to study food security in order to then say the things you plan to do. Probably you want to come up with better agricultural projects or come up with better food security policies. Why do you want to study LLM? You can think of those things now. International commercial law. Think of the issues you'd want to solve in your country. I know issues to do with corporate governance for people who do some stuff on law. Climate change, you can discuss climate change in your country, and you can always discuss especially smallholders, rural, and especially women and youth. If you are planning to study climate change, for people in public health, I think it's so easy to justify because always you have statistics on people who have the challenges you have in public health in your country, and I think now this invites you to kind of contextualize your answers, like make them specific, like think through them. It's not just saying I want to study this, but it's in relation to how are things in your country. I want to look at your career plan now questions. And this is very easy. They might ask you, what do you want to do immediately you come back from the UK? So this is exactly asking you what's your short-term career plan. I've always said for career plan, structure it in this way. Very specific. I asked someone this question a couple of days ago, and because it was based on where do you see yourself in 10 years, which is to me, 10 years is a long-term career plan to me, but some people might think that's medium term. It depends on what you think it is. But for me, I think anything beyond 5 or 7, beyond 7 is long-term career plan. So, and someone said, I see myself solving this. And the issue is not what you're solving. The issue is your position and post and the organization first. So always, if I ask you, where do you see yourself in 10 years? If I ask you, where do you see yourself in 10 years? You can say, I see myself as the director of let's say one of the organization in your country. It could be a parastatal, quasi-government organization, or government agency. So you see, in 10 years, be very specific. In 10 years, I see myself of director of organization X. In this role, I would want to do, list 3 things you want to do and why those things are important, link them to maybe challenges in your country, and then explain who do you need to partner with. And this doesn't need to go into details. And for me to achieve this, I need to network or partner with various other government agencies, civil society, and maybe private sector. And this will help the country achieve, maybe if it's SDG something, if it's related to an SDG, and you can also link that to probably, if you have a vision in your country. I know in Kenya we have Vision 2030. I'm not sure whether you're working towards it. Some countries have Vision 2050. So if you can link those answers you give in your career plan that way, it will be very helpful. When it comes to short-term career plan, like what do you want to do exactly after you finish your masters? For me, I always don't say I'll go and look for a job. I mean, you won't get a scholarship if you answer it that way. This is a career plan, a dream. So you need to be very specific. I want to be X, not X or Y. No, no, no. You need to be very specific. I want to be, when I come back, either you want to continue with the same organization you're working for, but if you choose to remain in that organization, always show that you're going for either you'll get a promotion or your roles will expand or you'll solve your scope of the issues you're dealing with or problems you're solving will expand because now you also have a master's which you didn't have before. That is if you choose to remain in the same organization. And always, again, remember it's the position where you want to occupy after you finish your masters, and the organization, the 3 things you want to do, organizations or individuals you can partner with either from civil society or the private sector, and why those things are important. And it's very good if you can link those issues now with SDGs or a vision in your country. I hope I am clear on that. For those with questions, I'll be taking your questions, so don't worry about that. I'm coming to an end, and I have now helped you, or we have gone through how to prepare for your interview and what to expect. So some of the questions you need to prepare for is, as I've said, I've used some of them, is tell us about yourself, giving a leadership example, or maybe it can be framed a time you failed or a time you solved a conflict in an organization. Or you can also, if it's networking, they may ask you a time when you networked and for your professional development. It could also be framed as, how do you plan to network in the UK, and also when you come back. If it's phrased that way, then you also need to think about it in a very broad way. Also remember there is the Chevening alumni in your country. So mentioning it in your answers, especially what you plan to do in your career plan, and saying, oh, I also, as you give your career plan, you say, oh, I'm also intending to continue with mentorship, helping people who might want to apply Chevening, and I'll do this through the Chevening alumni network in Kenya, which sometimes hold sessions to help applicants. So these are depending on the country you come from, and if you know you want to mention the alumni network in your country. I've also discussed the issue of the questions on studying in the UK. So, and this is basically you might be asked to take them through your choices. That's usually how it's framed. Can you take us through your choices? Again, please don't say you want to go to Manchester so that you can watch football. The only way you can justify your courses, it has to be education benefits. So, and don't go for rankings. I've always said rankings these days are outdated, especially for the university, because the university might be highly ranked, but the course is not highly ranked. So, and I think right now we already know that rankings don't matter that much. They don't, even in the job market. What really matters is the skills you've gained. So when you ask that question of justifying your course choices, always go to the reason I chose University of Reading. You can talk about how the program itself, how it's maybe it has a field trip, and that means because not all courses are field trips, so that means you'll explain it how the field trip will also kind of complement the theoretical skills you have gained with a practical experience in the field, or if it has some stuff to do with field, and I think some development courses have those field trips, and then you explain how that will be useful for you getting, not just, don't say I want to do this course because again, when people talk about courses, they go for very basic things. The mode of delivery is important also. So like Is it lectures? Is it workshops? Is it seminars? Because is it through group? Because if it's like there's group, then that means you gain more, because remember, you are a diverse community. So working in groups and in projects and delivering a project in a group work also kind of enhances your group or team working skills. Um, Again, when you are justifying your courses, it's always good to give two reasons for each. So and don't go for things that are generic, like I want to go to university because the library opens 24 hours. You know, over 100 universities in the UK, almost all universities open 24 hours, especially in summer when schools are in session or universities are in session. So always remember to don't go for very generic answers, go for very specific. I want to go for LLM at let's say Queen Mary University of London because of this module. And then you explain this module taught by Professor so and so has this component, and this component is really important because it will help me gain skills and expertise to solve problem Y in my country. Yeah, I mean, can you see how that answer, if you, when someone says I want to go to Leeds because I support Leeds championship club, I mean, and someone says I want to go to the University of Leeds to do MSc X because of this program has module Y, which will taught by Professor so and so. Again, if you mention professors, again the panel will see you are prepared and you've really researched your courses. Contextual questions, we cannot exhaust those ones because it depends on what is happening in your country. So if you have an election, you might be asked about the type of leaders people should consider. Again, they are looking for qualities that it is, not really mentioning individuals and all that. Finally, I would want to say that I wish you well as you prepare for your interview. Please, once you do the interview, keep in touch. You have my social media handles, and we have a channel, and we can continue engaging, and we can have another session once you get the scholarship on how you can best prepare, how you can take advantage of the opportunity. As I've said, you can go, two people from the same country can go to the same university, do the same course, and then achieving scholarship, but end up differently. How do you take advantage of those 18 months or 1 year on your course? I'm happy to take questions. I can see someone who said, I think I need to say more about myself. I don't think I have more to add for today. Yeah, I'm a Kenyan. I'm a PhD student at the University of Greenwich Natural Resources Institute, and my PhD looks at the intersection between food environments and childhood and adolescent obesity. And that tells you I look at food systems and public health nutrition. The question is, what if I haven't started networking with alumni yet? You've already started because now you know me, and I'm alumni. You can say you know me. Anyway, you can say, you don't need to say you know me, but you can say you already know people. I mean, you've started. Don't say you haven't started. You've already started. You've probably, on LinkedIn, you have a number of them. Just start looking at what they are doing and all those kind of things. But you can also say the things you plan to do. They might also tell you to ask questions. So please, if you have to ask a question, ask a smart one. So there might be a alumni in the panel. Most of the times, I've been invited in Nairobi to go for those interviews. Most of the times, I'm away, so I've never interviewed anyone. But I know my friends have interviewed people in the interviews, the alumni. Um, I can see a question. For those who want to submit the application this year, where do you think their planning is by now? Wow, I think this session was mostly for people being invited for interviews. So the other videos are prepared, and my blog also has a blog on an article on how to prepare for your interview, and also how to go the 4 S's, how to go about the 4 S's. So I think we'll be running sessions later this year. But if you're you plan to apply when it opens in August or September, then you need to start thinking, what examples do I need to give? So you might be thinking, I don't have very strong networking examples, then start networking right now. Probably your best example you'll get it between now and August before the cycle opens for application. There is a question here, Fraser, Ethiopia, articles, mock interview. Yes, I've said just reach out to me via LinkedIn or commenting on this video, and then we'll discuss how I can offer a mock interview. especially if yours is days week. I really have a very, 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 very tight schedule. So the earlier the better, especially for those who have days week. So I might be able to see if someone has interview on Monday or Tuesday, then I need to plan when to have the mock interview with you. Yes, you'll meet me in the UK. That's very true. I've met Chivnas. I met a number of them last year. I went for a conference in Cambridge. And they're like, "Oh, you're the one who wrote those essays. I used those essays from your blog." Yeah, it's possible we will meet. Nimi, guidance and conditional offer from my third university Leeds, but conditional from my first choice Reading. My interview is on 27 March. What should I do? So always remember, I mean, you can change your, if you've already gone for the interview and you have among the three already you have an offer, don't worry. Just go and present them the way they are. Even if your first choice has not given you an unconditional offer, just go to the interview. If you don't get an unconditional offer by the deadline in July, which they give you, because you'll get your results by mid-June. And then after mid-June, you're told, we've given you until July something to comply with all the conditions. So some of them will be like, you need to have an unconditional offer. So if you will not have gotten an unconditional offer from your first choice, then you can actually give your second choice now. But for now, just present as a yeah, if you feel like your choices are okay, like the order of your choices are okay. A mock interview, I've said, reach out to me. I mean, a lot of you, I know you from social media, you reach out to me before on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm happy to help with mock interviews. And one thing I might add, please give back. Next year it will be you. So, or maybe this year, someone might tell you to review the essays. Remember to pay it forward. I do these things also for free. So you can also do them for free when you have the time. Um, do I need to change my school on the website before I go for my interview? No, you cannot change. You can only change during the interview. You can only change at this stage. At this stage, you can only change during the interview. You can change the order, or you can introduce completely three different choices of your courses. They might ask you to justify. So just they might. So if they ask you to justify why you're changing, always have answers on why you've changed, and go again for those academic benefits. As I said, don't go for very generic reasons again. Um, give us examples of questions to ask the panel. Anyway, I do not have examples to give you of questions because um, obviously you can't ask when you expect results because you already know it's gonna be mid-June. You can't ask. Maybe you can ask about the alumni. If you haven't heard of them, you can challenge them. Tell them you don't hear your alumni that much. You look at their social media channel and you're not seeing them doing a lot of like they'll be like, wow, this is someone challenging. We need them to come and bring that energy in the alumni. But that is if they are not vibrant. If they're vibrant, remember again, you'll be kind of asking a question where you haven't researched fully whether they are doing something or not. So, as I've said, you need to ask questions based on if you feel like your alumni in your country are kind of silent, and you need to bring in some energy, ask questions, and then they'll be like, if there's an alumni in the panel, they'll be like, wow, this is someone we need. We need this energy. So, interview slots are limited. Does that mean that they will not interview all the selected candidates? No, they will interview all of you. It's the fact that there is someone in the panel probably they want to have for that specific interview, probably because of their availability or their profession. And then they're like, you're not given all the slots. Like in my interview, I had someone from the Commonwealth something. There's an association of Commonwealth universities, so which is an association of all universities in the UK. So like if that someone is in your country for a few days and then they want to go to another country and participate in the interviews for a few days again, then you'll be given slots that are really because of their availability. If there's someone, if really you're doing stuff on maybe artificial intelligence, and they want to have someone on your panel who is an expert in that, just you know, and they're available just a few days, maybe Monday and Wednesday. They'll give you slots probably on Monday and Wednesday to choose from. So really, it doesn't mean they won't interview all of you. Everyone who gets shortlisted gets interviewed, unless you drop out and say you don't want to do the interview. You'll have a chance with the interview. So please give everything for your interviews. Go with a lot of confidence, take time to answer the questions, and know that you wrote essays that have got you to this stage. So unless you have a very strong example that something has happened between since you submitted your essays, don't change some of these examples. Just give whatever you have. It's always hard to think something on the spot unless it's something very new they've asked, like maybe something you solve a conflict and it is not in your essays. When you solve a conflict, has there been a case of Chevening history where a scholar didn't perform at any university after being granted a scholarship? Yes. Initially, you guys didn't find this. There used to be English language requirement for Chevening. So you'd have different requirements for meeting the English language requirement for Chevening scholarship and for the university. So there used to be, you have offers because universities can give you an offer if they feel your English language skills are sufficient. For example, I know people from East Africa and West Africa, their high school grades in English are accepted in UK universities. So you can get an unconditional offer without the English language requirement with your high school English grades from West Africa, and obviously I'm talking about English speaking or Anglophone countries in Africa. But for Chevening, there was no shortcut then. You had to do a test. Luckily, they removed it during COVID. So there are people who used to get to the interview and they're interviewed. Unfortunately, I had friends like those, and then they wouldn't have met the English language for Chevening. Believe you me, they missed the scholarship. It has happened. So when you succeed in your interview, just make sure that the man they give you meet those conditions. We can discuss other things, the TB test they do. Those ones they give you a chance to do later and all that. So yeah, but for requirements, you have to meet all of them, especially on the tuning side. For the universities, if it's English, there are exemptions, and you can always consult people on how to apply for an exemption. So, for example, when I was going to Reading, I didn't have to submit my English language results because Reading had already accepted my high school English language grades. Even though they were very old, I told them, wow, I have been writing articles for newspapers, and the language of instruction in all my education has been English, and they removed that condition. I got unconditional offer. So if you would really want to apply for an exemption, if a university is really insisting you to meet the education requirement, just go, and in their website there are other ways of meeting that requirement, and not necessarily doing any tests. Some you might even find that if you did your high school grades, if your language of instruction in your country is English, especially I know East Africa and Central Africa. Sorry, East Africa and some countries in West Africa. So you don't need to worry about that. But for Chevening, I don't think there are many conditions these days because they removed the English one, which was the major. So right now it's just you getting make sure you just have one offer, not even a three, because they just want one. So at the end of the day, you only need one, but make sure you have three. You never know. I mean, a lot of things have happened before. So just make sure you have a three, and you can apply for. If your interview is end of this month, you can also, and you feel like you can apply for another uni. Sometimes they take like 2 weeks to give you an offer. You can apply for another one. If you feel like you need to change the order of your universities or introduce a new course, you can drop one. I think I dropped one. I dropped Edinburgh in my interview and introduced a new course in my interview and made it my first choice, because after submitting my application, I was like, wow, I think I would want to go to Reading and do agriculture and development rather than applied international development. So that's how I ended up doing agriculture and development. So is it okay? Do you think changing one of my university choice negatively affects my interview results? No, it won't. They might not even ask you to justify, but if they ask, always have an answer why you're changing. And again, go for education benefits. Like I feel this course, the module, all those kind of things. This course has a field trip. This course has this module, and I feel this module taught by Professor so and so, his expertise will help me gain these skills which will be useful in my country in solving problem Y or ABCD. So those kind of things will be, make it a conversation. It's so easy. If I made a mistake, I stated that late 2014 and my referee stated 2015 and the correct date is 2015. Maybe I don't think they check those details that much. So if you've been shortlisted already, I don't think honestly, I don't think they read so much about those reference letters that much. If you are shortlisted, the thing between you and your interview right now is just the interview. So just perform well in your interview. Even if there are some inconsistencies in your essays and you feel like, wow, I meant this but came out this way, forget about that. Just go and give your best in the interview, and that's all. Don't think about what was written in your letters. Just go and deliver in the interview. That's what is between you and Chevening right now. Can I mention other scholarships I've applied? If they ask, how should I respond? Oh, always, there is nothing wrong with that. Saying you've applied for other scholarships. No one will discriminate you by saying you've applied for other scholarships. So you can just mention, yeah, I have applied for Commonwealth and I have applied for Marshall Papworth. Yep, if you have applied for them, there's nothing wrong with that. What justification did you give for the change? Nothing about the courses I chose has changed since. I think I've said you give education benefits, give the modules, because of course there is a module that you feel like it's more appealing. Why is it appealing? Connect it to something in your country, something you want to do in your career, a problem you want to solve in your country. So that's the justification you give. If you have stats in your answers, does it strengthen your chances to the scholarship? Well, I think it does. I'm a researcher and I know what stats do, but don't overuse them. Don't overuse them. Sparingly. Just use them sparingly. Don't overuse statistics. So, for example, just if it's like things like food security, you can say 30% of people in a country are food insecure, and maybe 5 million children under 5 suffer from malnutrition, which will eventually affect their educational or outcomes in life. So, and then don't go beyond that. Don't go beyond that. That's also I would say. Don't overuse statistics. So, otherwise, thank you so much, guys, and it's a pleasure having you this afternoon. I don't think I'll be having another session for the interviews. This is the only one. So, the 30 of you, I think the highest we've had during the session was 31. I would want to help you with a mock interview. Please reach out to me because I need to plan. So that if there's one happening next week, I might need to prioritize people doing the interviews this week. I would also request you, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. And always feel free to engage with me. And looking forward to more engaging content this year. I think I would want to have a session on how you can use Chevening to change your career, because that's what I did. Those who know my background, I was in finance. I used to be a banker, and until when SDGs were being framed, and I felt like I needed to do something different. And I would also want to say that now I would want to have a session, of course, with people who will be applying this year, because a lot of people want to go to international development to talk about issues to do with poverty, SDGs, but probably they are still stuck in the private sector, thinking about profits, working for companies that are just focused on profits. And you feel like, wow, because we all develop, we all grow, and you feel like this is not where I want to be. This is not what I want to feel like. My values have changed in life, and I would want to pursue a different career. So I would want to have those kind of sessions to guide people. And the other thing is that I've said we can have a session later on how to maximize on this opportunity once you get it, so that you can take advantage and use it fully, because it's a huge opportunity. Probably the other final thing I would say is once you've done your interview, just know that you've done your best and wait for the results and hope for that you get to get the scholarship. There's a question I'm seeing here. Can I introduce other responsibilities that I obtained later after submitting my essays that are relevant? You can only introduce them in your answers. So, for example, if for example you've just recently been promoted and you're being asked about a networking opportunity, uh, probably you can say that a networking opportunity that has led to your promotion of late. So I hope that helps. So not really introducing a new concept, but really when you're answering it, using your new role of if something, maybe you have had a recent thing that would qualify to be the best example you've had or the best networking example, even if it's not in your essays and it happened the last few months after submitting your essays, you can use it. Just make sure that it's strong enough to do the others. Otherwise, remember your essays shortlisted you and they are good enough. You only need now to deliver them in an interview. I will be available on LinkedIn, yes. So please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, have a nice weekend and all the best in your interviews. And for those having the interviews this week, please reach out to me and we can organize a mock interview. Thank you very much for the session. Bye.